Presume you all couldn't hear me at home. Zoomers, give me a thumbs up if it's a clear signal. Great. I know you can hear me here. Just about. It's a clear signal here as well. Good job you didn't come, Zoomers. It's shoulder to shoulder in here today. You wouldn't have got in. Absolutely rammed. So bring yourself up to standing. I've got a funny camera angle today. I hope it's okay. We're standing up. That's how we're starting this whole shenanigans. And we're going to have our feet close all together and hands into prayer. So a few deep breaths through your nose. If you can, perhaps some movement of your toes to tune in. And a sense of gathering around the pelvic floor, sort of a buoyancy. Raise your arms up. Tone your tummy up, which means it draws lightly in and up. And that's sort of reiterative. We do that lots of times. So there's a real sense of gathering, really strong sense of gathering. And that's gathered around this current, the upward current that we're creating and reiterating. Press your feet, raise your fingers, inhale. Exhale, bend your ankles, knees, and hips. And breathe through your nose if you can. Moving up, moving down, moving left, moving right. And standing up again when you're ready. Big circle, hands to heart. 2 or 3 or 4 deep breaths. Getting things flowing, and repeat the same again. So arms up, tummy toned, finding the pelvic floor, and releasing the roots of the neck. Inhaling, stretching up. Exhaling, bend ankles, knees, and hips. And a little bit of movement. Eyes soft, brain soft, investigative, aware. And standing up again. So this is Utkata. Hands back to the heart. This time with the feet apart, hip width. Spread your toes. Make sure your toes are not turning out like that, but straight ahead. And then raise your arms up again when you're ready. Good job. Lightly tone the tum. Press down into the feet, raise up into the fingers. Inhale. Exhale, bend ankles, knees, and hips, and lean forwards from the pelvis. So the pelvis is the thing that's tilting. And a little bit of play through the deltoids that cap your shoulders. Make sure you're not holding any unnecessary tensions. And how low you go is up to you. What feels good? Sometimes it feels good to come down to a squat or somewhere along the journey towards a squat. Utkata means squatting. And finally ascending with a big circle, hands on the hips, feet apart. Just check that your feet are level. Enjoy a few deep breaths as the morning really kicks in. Back toes in, front foot and leg out on the ball of the foot. Finish off the turn on the heel. That should always leave you heel to arch alignment, which is what we want. Stretch your arms when you're ready. Lovely. Good job. Inhale. Exhale. Bend your front knee. Elbow down, palm up. Look up. Stretch up. Maybe up and over, if that feels okay. But up's fine. It doesn't have to be up and over. It's up is fine. Light tone in the tummy. Softness in the eyes. Investigative, experimental. Breath-centered. Playful. And then arm down, palm down, push into the leg, come on up. Feet facing forwards. See if you can squeeze yourself in somewhere, Phil. Back toes in, front foot and leg out, turning on the ball of the foot. Finish off the turn on the heel. Just double check that you've got heel to arch alignment. What you want to avoid is heel to heel. So this is heel to heel, and that's a no. So it's heel to the arch or the middle of the back foot. That's important for several reasons, but I don't want to waffle too much quite yet. Stretch your arms, lift your chest. Inhale, exhale, bend your knee. Stretch into the back leg, elbow down, palm up. Stretch up if you want. Don't hold your breath. Take 2 or 3 or 4 deep breaths. There's the option to go up and over, but sometimes it feels better just to keep the arm up and not go over. Breathe through your nose. It's looking good. It's wobbly, but good. Turn, turn, turn. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Play. Play with the pose too. Try a little forwards or backwards movement. Great. Arm down, palm down, push into the leg. Come up on the inhale. We're taking the pose to the diagonal, which means 1 foot forwards. Let's say your right foot towards me. You got it. You got it. You got it. And then the left foot back, away from me. So this is the diagonal alignment. I say away from me and towards me at home on Zoom. I don't know how your setup is, but as long as you're going diagonal, so it's a bit more wobbly, which I think you'll find exciting. And it also opens up between the front hips more easily. Bend your front knee, but arc a little semicircle with your knee several times. So you bend and re-extend, and you feel it coming from both legs stretching. Sometimes moving your feet will help you stretch your legs. And eventually we're coming to the same pose in this rather exciting way. Stretching up and over, and I think you'll find not only are you very, very excited, but also that your chest can open a little bit more easily. So breathing easy. Hi, Kate. How are you? Nice jumper. Thanks for wearing it. Stretch a little bit more. Jaw soft, eyes soft. Inhale. Come up calmly. Well done. Guess what? We do the other leg. Same thing. So 1 back, 1 forwards. Diagonal alignment. Good. Good to see you all shifting around there at home. Make sure your back toes don't turn out. They don't have to turn in for this version. Actually, it's the other way. That one back and that one forwards. No, still not. There's still another other way. So still face towards me. Still face towards me. So turn around completely. Yeah, that's it. And this foot comes here. So that's it. And that one goes back. There. You got it. You got it. You're home and dry. By the way, in a minute, I think your mat is upside down, which is why it's skidding a little bit on the floor. Good. Where were we? Oh, yes. Bending, extending, etc. So coming down. Is that where we were? Yeah, it is. Okay. And then stretching up and over. Sorry about the scaffolders. I believe they've already been scolded. From what I hear. I think I might. No, I mean, it's okay, isn't it? I mean, Brighton is so full of scaffolders all the time. It's a normal noise, isn't it? Anyway, breathe, turn to look up. I might say some nice things to the scaffolders in a minute, including an apology. Stretch a little bit more. Breathe through your nose if you can. Well done. Come on up. Well done, everyone. Walk your feet towards each other. Shake out a little bit if you want. Bring your feet together. Good. So hopefully now with all those Utkatasana and those Parsvakonasanas, we're feeling quite loose. So we're ready for tree pose, Vrikshasana. So we're going to raise the right leg. A little bit of Elvis Presley. Oh, doesn't do any harm. And then once you're feeling loose and a bit more Elvis-y, I don't know if you feel it. Do you feel a bit more Elvis-y yet? A little bit? Just, yeah. Some nods. Some people not quite Elvis-y. It's just beginning with me. It takes a while. And once you're really loose like that, it's a good feeling when you do feel Elvis-y. You'll know it when it comes. We can either put the heel on the ankle or cup the knee or bring the foot high up to the opposite thigh. All of those are fine. Hands to prayer. Breathing through the nose. Think of it as wobbly fun. Don't hold your breath. Enjoy the wobbles. They're part of the surfing of the pose. If you've got leggings and they're a bit slippery, sometimes a belt around the leg that your foot's going to be placed against can help to stop slipping your leg down. Okay. Release your hands, place your foot, take a breath. Shake out a bit. Little looser. Good, good, good. Up comes it. Yeah, that's nice. Up comes the other heel and a bit of Elvis Presley. I actually can't go to Elvis. It's just not appropriate for a yoga teacher to go to Elvis. So you go a little bit Elvis. You know what I mean? You can't go to Elvis, not this time of day, not in the Buddhist center shrine room. But you can feel it, the surge of Elvis energy rising up, perhaps. Kate, I think you've gone Elvisy. Oh my Lord, you went there. Good moves. When you're ready, the leg can come onto the inner ankle or cup the knee or go all the way up to the top of the thigh. Hands in the prayer position. Expressive deep breathing through the nose. And then wobbly thumbs, so we should really treat the wobbles as fun, I think. It's an opportunity. So that, there's a sense of enjoying the instability. We are in a Buddhist center, and Buddhists do thrive on focusing on instability, anitya, they call it in Sanskrit, or nitya in Pali. So why is instability such a useful thing to focus on? Because it makes the mind itself become fluid. And a flowing mind is a mind that's adaptable. And reality is changing all the time. So the fundamental thing you need for living a good life, adaptable mind. Great. Okay, release, place, and breathe. A little shake off. Now, it's probably useful to use a block or two in front of you because we're going to come into Uttanasana, forward fold. If you've got very short legs, very long arms, and very flexible hamstrings, you might not need a block or blocks. But blocks are useful, I think. And if you're not sure if you need them or not, then have them in front of you anyway. So we can use one cork block or two cork blocks, or purple blocks are okay. We're going to raise our arms up. That's it. Inhale, exhale, fold down to your block area. About hip width your feet, so, not too wide. And then open your chest. Yeah, you got it. Because the hamstring muscle is attached to your sitting bones, and because the movement of your back is dictated by how much your pelvis moves, if you move your feet and you play with the stretch, your hamstrings will loosen a bit. And if they loosen a bit, your pelvis will loosen. And eventually your back might start loosening from convex, curving up, to concave, curving down. And of course, it's the latter that we want. We want to concave. We want the spine to concave. So breathing into more. Yeah, hi, Kath. How are you? Good, nice to see you. Yeah, there's a common misunderstanding that it's 9:30, but don't worry. The important thing is that you're here. So moving the pelvis this way, moving the pelvis that way. Chest really open, jaw soft. This is Uttanasana, of course. And it's an opportunity to melt. Yeah? So play, but make sure you feel properly engaged. So you're kind of feeling more alive instead of just sort of daydreamy, kind of getting into your body, getting interested in your body, playing with it. If your back does start to concave, and it's not super likely, but in time it definitely will. How long is another matter, but in time it definitely will. If it does start to concave, dip down, then it might feel better to go lower. It's not the case for most of us. Most of us, it's still convexing, it's still rounding up. So we want to keep the back very spacious. We want to feel along the front of the spine that we're very open. But if the body comes lower because you've got short legs or the hamstrings have started to loosen, then that's great, that's fine. What we don't want are one of these three things sustained: dullness, aching, or pain. None of those three things should be sustained. So if you feel dullness, aching, or pain in the body, then you have to take action, moving to loosen, or bending the knees to release, or bending them more if they're bent already. So hands on the block. I mean, it's rare, but it's possible that some people might have the block lower or even the head on the block. Unlikely, but possible. Don't hold the breath. Lead with the chest, come up to fingertips and come all the way back up when you're ready. And come into down face dog as soon as you're ready. So stepping back for downward facing dog, really padding your paws into the mat. Yeah, that's it. Don't hold your breath. Reiterate your palms melding with the mat. Palms meld with the mat. Make sure your hands are the same distance from the sides of the mat with a visual observation. Have a look. And make sure your feet are the same distance as each other, not as necessarily as the hands, but as each other from the sides of the mat too. Heels go back, thighs rise up. And there's a sense in which the back of the thighs is quite subtle. I think it takes a while to be able to feel that, but you might feel that. The back of the thighs go forwards. So the heels go back, the thighs go up. There's a sense in which the whole back of the thigh moves forwards. And those three things are relating to each other. The heels going back, the thighs going up at the front, and the back of the thighs going forwards. And I think you might need quite a bit of repetition, attunement to that before you can really feel it. Breathe through your nose if you can. Open and stretch your armpits, inner and outer and under. Great. Make sure your hands are wide enough to allow for your collarbones as you lean forwards and hover your shoulders above your wrists. If it's intense on the wrists, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Wrists benefit from being stretched a lot. And as you get older, it becomes more important to stretch them. So this is an important pose. Bring your knees down and sit in a regular kneeling position with a block, if you need it, between the heels and buttocks. Take 3 or 4 or 5 deep breaths, one hand on top of the other. Yeah. Let your bum relax. And sometimes our bums are a bit tense because we're, things happen, don't they? Things happen, the nervous system receives them, it jangles a bit. Then sometimes we let that go, or sometimes it gets stuck in the nerves, especially if things happen again and again and again. So when we sit like this, we often feel an opportunity for sensations of tension to release. And in this way, we release our nervous system, and we can provoke that release. For example, by rolling on the shins side to side, massaging the shins that way, massaging the buttocks that way, and by really letting the breath go. Really letting the breath go. Similar pose to the last, but not the same. We're coming to our forearms next. So bring your forearms on the floor as if you're holding bunches of daffodils and tulips. Stretching the legs back and breathing through your nose. So sloping from shoulder blades to buttocks and from buttocks to heels. Let it move around a bit. We want it to move around a bit. We want it to flow. Don't let the bum float too high. And we don't want any wilting pelvises, do we? That's not something anyone would put on their CV. I've got a wilting pelvis, so make sure it doesn't wilt in this pose. But that means sharing the load, because it's quite difficult. But share the load. Well done. Bring your knees forwards, come to hands and knees. Take a really deep breath when you're ready. And if you want, take 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9, 10 or 109 or 247, any number. I think you're getting the point. I mean, any number. Just let it flow and let everything flow. So get a little looser, experiment. Obviously, when we're unsure about things, and that often happens when our nerves get jangled, when we're unsure about things, then we tend to get stiff and our movement is limited. And that's what's cool about yoga. Yoga understands that everything is everything. So if you want to release a sort of doubtful or apprehensive mind, release it from the body or release it from the breath, because it's all one. It's happening in the breath as well as the body, but sometimes it's easier to release it from the breath than it is to get caught up again in the mind. Let's raise up the leg that's furthest away from me and the opposite arm and allow some movement. So that might mean floating up, floating down, drifting left, drifting right, breathing through the nose if you can. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft. Now, some people, and it might not be you, but some people like to bend that leg and see if they can take hold of it. If you want to try that, you're welcome. But if you don't want to try that, you're welcome as well. Yeah? And it's, it's a little, even the attempt is a little bit of fun. It helps us to gauge how seriously we're taking ourselves today, which of course is very important, very useful to not take ourselves very seriously if possible. So even laughing at our seriousness can be beneficial. Yeah. Okay, back to hands and knees. Catch a deep breath. The pose is called Vyagrasana. Vyagra means tiger in Sanskrit. Opposite arm, opposite leg coming up similarly. And again, similarly, really letting them flow around. Moving medial, moving lateral, swaying this way, swaying that way, drifting up, drifting down. Without holding the breath. Jaw soft, eyes soft. If you want to try the leg holding variation, then you can try if you want. It's an option. Some people even like to lift the leg and lift the chest if holding it. That's optional. You don't have to do it. Personally, I quite like it. Good. Coming back down to hands and knees. Take your hands so wide that the little fingers come off the edge of the mat. And the same with the feet, so wide that the little toes come off the edge of the mat. And really stretch up into your down face dog. Please feel free to experiment. Like to move your pelvis left or right. Don't hold the breath. Feel your way through it. Jaw soft, eyes soft, throat soft, brain soft, but investigating. We're not spacing out. We're really investigating. It's like knocking on a door. You keep knocking on the door to see if you can come in. And that means moving this way and that to see if the body will release what it's holding and thereby allow you in. Huh? So if the body is preoccupied, then there's no room in there, is there? So keep knocking and just say, can I come in yet? Come in. And it will promote this preoccupation to leave what the body's holding. Well done. Okay, coming down nice and easy. And stretching your legs out in front of you. Facing the midline if you're on the sides of the room like this, or if you're in Kath and my row, here, we own this row, don't we, Kath? It's our row. Then we face this way. Kath and I face this way because we do what we like in our row, me and Kath's row. Take a few breaths. Now, I'm going to give you something hard. I'm just not going to beat about the bush, but then I'm going to give you something easy. So I hope that feels like a fair deal. Bring your hands behind your head, lean back by 60 degrees, raise your toes up to the level of your eyeballs. Okay. Doesn't have to be static. Still see if you can keep a glint in your eye at least. Breathe through your nose. It's a pose, it's called Ardha Navasana, that most people don't practice at home unless they're zooming in with me and being made to do it. So breathe, breathe, breathe. Stay with it. All right, bend your legs. Hug your legs. Lift your lower back and breathe through your nose. So just loosen your back a little bit, perhaps a little side to side. Deep breaths. And perhaps you can feel and imagine, so visualize the lower back and mind loosening and breath loosening. And whatever stuff stuck to us, I guess I shouldn't really talk so much about Jainism as I do in a Buddhist center, because Buddhists and Jains for 2,500 years have definitely had a sort of antagonistic relationship, although it's clearly also very friendly. But the Jains have this idea that karma is like particles that stick to you, like you get sort of heavy with it, you know. I think that's a great way of visualizing it. I mean, they actually, some Jains think that that's actually a thing, you know, it really is how it is. These sort of particles of karma. I think it's useful because things do stick to us. Don't they? Someone says something, it sticks to us. You know, we cross the road and have to run across because we didn't judge it right. That sticks to us, huh? And so on. So the job of yoga is to become less sticky so that karmic particles fall off us. Less sticky means less caught up in craving and aversion because they make us sticky. So when we're sort of overly connected with thoughts, feelings, emotions, then we become more sticky and these more karmic particles stick to us. So anyway, we're shedding karmic particles. Now I know what you're thinking. That last pose was very, very interesting, Jim. I found it very, very interesting indeed. I'd like to do another pose that's similar but not the same. All right then. Stretch your legs out. Lean your body back 30 degrees. Raise up your legs so your toes are higher than your eyes. Uh-oh. Arms forward. Well done. Good job. Breathe into it. Doing a great job. Try not to worry. Breathe into it. Keep a glint in your eye. It's all for fun. It's all us just being silly buggers for a little bit, isn't it? 80 years of, if we're lucky, of being silly buggers. So just, you know, enjoy it. If you capsize, that's good. It's part of the fun. Good job. Burning thighs. Yeah, it goes with the territory. It's all right. Burning thighs. Thinking about ways in which you might cheat or come out of the pose for a second while Jim's not looking. That goes with the territory. All right, come out. Cross your legs. Draw the buttock flesh out and back. Take a breath or two. Sit up tall. Let's take 5 deep breaths. Sitting up as tall as you can. Don't forget to draw the buttock flesh out and back. It really helps with posture. So a little bit of movement. Sometimes we've got to get that energy pot stirred. You know what I mean? Sometimes we get a bit. And that's when we've got all these karmic particles. We get heavy. Like Neil from The Young Ones used to always say, really heavy man. And that's kind of true, you know, that hippie saying. We get heavy. Well, we want to be light. The deep breaths, focusing on lightness like a dandelion seed by shedding these karmic particles. And you do that by becoming less sticky. And you become less sticky through flowing the breath, flowing the body, and appreciating the selflessness of these various sensations. Now, I promised something easy. So we're going to do the lazy person's version of tree pose. How do you do that? You lay down on your back. So take a block, lay down on your back. You might need 2 blocks. You're going to put 1 block against the inner thigh of one leg, and then there you go. There's your lazy person's tree pose. If you feel you need another block or support, please feel free to take another. And we can either stretch the arms up and over the head, which of course can be made a lot easier if we move our arms. Bless you. If we move our arms a few times, that can be made a lot easier. So move your arms a few times side to side, because that will hydrate. It will bring hydration. So deep breaths, this wonderfully lazy version. But it doesn't have to have the qualities of laziness, but more so Patanjali says that, you know, actually laziness, alasya, is not a good, or not a useful yogic quality. It's an obstacle to yoga, alasya. But he does say relaxation, being relaxed, is a fundamental part of successful yoga. Relaxation is a fundamental part of successful yoga. So the question is, what is relaxation for you here and now? What facilitates it? Neck soft, lower back soft, jaw soft, eyes soft. Be aware of the straight leg, that it doesn't just fall out to the side. Just see if you can stretch it in ways that are integrated. We're not just sort of demanding that it does what we want it to do, but integrated. Great. Okay. Bring the bent leg up, push the block to the opposite side, and then in a similar or even the same manner, we'll do the same thing on the other side. We can call it side 2 if we want. So the block goes high up so that your foot can go high up. The lower leg, we avoid it falling out to the side, that is. And we can stretch our arms up and over the head. Remember, even if you feel stiff, even if you think, oh, but my shoulders are really stiff, you can make a huge difference. Nothing is fixed, nothing is laid solid in stone. By moving, you can move the tensions that have accumulated. You can invite them to leave, So I've compared this to a foot pressing into a muddy puddle. If you press your foot into a muddy puddle, what's in the puddle in the form of the gases in there will come out because you've gone in. So what the body's holding comes out as you go in. And this is how we cleanse the nerves. This is how we become light. This is how our perception clears and we realize our true nature again, which we forget by becoming obsessed with the clouds. We forget that our real nature is the blue sky, which is permanent, limitless, boundless, endless. And in a sense, the blue sky is featureless. It doesn't have qualities. It remains the blue sky. Other things come in, like different shades of light. The moon comes in, sun comes in, clouds come in, different weather comes in, birds fly through it, and so on. So the blue sky forgets its nature by getting obsessed with particular weather systems or particular flocks of birds. But everything that takes place within it. Everything that takes place comes and goes, but it comes and goes within it. And it is the ground that supports everything. The sky or the air or the atmosphere, you could say, supports everything, doesn't it? The moon doesn't have an atmosphere. Nothing lives on the moon. So whatever your mind gets caught up in, ideas about yourself, worries about the future, agitations based on the past, knock on the door, and that means investigate, try things, experiment, see if there's a way in. Can I come in, to the body? Okay, groovy, good, marvelous. Coming up by bending your legs, pushing the block to one side and raising up one leg. Let's say that one, whichever one it is. That one, yeah, go for it. That one, that's a good choice. Yeah, that's a good choice. I would have gone for that one too, if I were you. I said, yeah, good choice with that one. Move your foot back and forwards, dorsiplantar flex your foot. Experiment, see if you can wake yourself up in a good way, like here I am in this room, or where I am now, So you expand, we get contracted around particularities. But if you really notice particularities, they come and go, and they must come and go in something. So one of the marvelous things about practicing in real life in the Buddhist center is the glass atrium on the ceiling. because you can see blue sky and clouds and seagulls and things coming and going. So that's a wonderful lesson in I am the blue sky, and the objects in it point back to its stability. How can they be self if they change all the time? One day I'm a seagull, the next day I'm a hailstorm. Okay, heel in, toes out, cross that leg over the other one. Cross that leg over the other one. You got it. Lift the foot that's on the floor off the floor, plunge through the gap, interlace. Either round the back thigh or front shin. You got it. You got it. And then a little bit more rolling around. See if you can find a sensation that knocks you, off your track. Knocks you off your tracks. You know how we can sometimes get really sort of locked, can't we? And we get so locked on our tracks, even if someone else tries to encourage us, like, come off the tracks, then we can be quite resistant. But a rich sensation, that'll do it, Legs can move, the head can move, whatever works for you. Rolling left, rolling right, investigating, breathing freely. I think it's a nice pose to stay a while, but we've got the other leg to do. So let's bring that one down, raise the other. Some of you quite sensibly putting blocks under your head. Please feel free and encouraged to do that if your neck feels tight. Raise the other leg, dorsally plantar flex, circle, half circle, scrunch and unscrunch, whatever gets you through the night. Quoting John Lennon there. So just bring some life, that's all. Like, sort of in the nicest possible way, snap out of it, whatever it is, and into this, And that's done by taking an interest, that contracted mind can re-expand. This is called unmesha, the sort of closing and opening of the eyelids is called unmesha. So sometimes eyelids are closed and then they're open. And when they're closed, it's contracted. Our experience is contracting. When they're open, it's expanded. Turn the heel in, toes out, cross that leg over, the other one, and then lift the foot that's on the floor, plunge through the gap. Good. You got it. That's it. Yeah, you got it. And then head back down to floor or blocks and roll around a bit. See if you can find some sensations that are, beyond speech, as it were. Yes, it's called Suchirandrasana. Suchirandrasana. So Suchirandrasana means threading the needle, or just means needle and thread. Suchir is thread, and then Randra is like the piercing, like a piercing needle. And actually, there's two poses that share the same name, but that's okay. Lots of us share the same names, don't we? There's lots of Sarahs, Johns, and Jameses and things. Release when you're ready. Place your foot down. Take a deep breath. Roll over. Come up from the side. It's going quite well. Make sure you've got a belt nearby. Fold the end of your mat over. A third of your mat is folded over. There should be lots of belts in the room. If you haven't got one where you are, there'll be one somewhere nearby, I think. Once you've folded a third of your mat over, and at home, if you haven't got a yoga belt, I know you've got something, dressing gown belt, I hope. Hope you're not, your dressing gown isn't exposing you all the time because you've got no belt. Maybe some of you do taekwondo Might have a belt for that. I don't even know what it is really. Martial art. So sitting with a belt nearby, legs out in front of you, a third, which is more than a quarter of your mat. Most people don't fold enough. And then you can sit on a block, but don't have to. If you are sitting on a block, tip the side. So I'll just show you what I mean. Tip the side furthest away from me back. And that's going to be the leg that we draw back. So you can see it makes space for the leg to come back by tipping the block backwards. So up to you whether you use a block or not. Well, it's not up to you. It's up to whether or not it feels more light on a block. The side you've tipped back is the leg we're going to bring back. So when you're ready, go ahead, take hold of that leg. And how far it comes back is up to you. Obviously, it's similar to the tree pose we did laying on our back. So hopefully there's a bit of a warm-up happen there. Foot can come to the inner thigh of the opposite leg, or it can come to the inner thigh of its own leg, but that's more tricky, but has some benefits. Make sure your knee's not tight. Bring your fingers cupped onto the floor. Cup your fingers, put them on the floor. And then lift up your spine. Make it light. Breathe through your nose. Okay. Yeah, so lift up as tall and light as you can. Not just light in the body, but light in the mind as well. Breathing through your nose. Breathing through your nose. If you can. That's it. And it's lovely, I think, to sit like this, to let the tensions in the legs go, especially inside the bent knee, if there's any tension there. To let tensions in your back release so you can lift up. If you daydream, that's okay. Just, add to your daydream the fact that you're loved very, very, very much. And if you want, you can now use the belt and put it around your foot, unless you happen to have very short legs and very long arms, in which case you might be able to hold the foot directly. But we don't want to close the spine. That's very, very important, that we keep the spine open. So you must give yourself as much slack as you need. So you're open. Sorry to hit the microphone. Sorry about that. Open on the front of the body. And breathing through your nose. Soften inside the knee. Eyes soft, brain soft. Jaw soft. Keep focusing on the lift. Don't worry about anything else. If you lift for long enough and you soften and breathe deeply into your sensations, then it's guaranteed that in time, the hamstring muscles on the back of your extended leg will start to soften. And as they soften, the pelvis starts to tilt. And as the pelvis tilts, the spine goes along with the pelvis, and the spine in that way stays exactly as it would if you were standing up. You're not slumping on the spine, you're not collapsing on the spine. So no rounded backs, s'il vous plaît. Keep the spine open. Yeah. Focus instead on your breath. Let any motion be fueled by the engine of the breath. Any motion. The engine of that motion is the breath. Not craving, not reaching out, but just the breath. Great. Leading with the chest to come up. Nice and calm. Stretch out your legs. Give yourself a little rub down. Make sure you feel energized. Even if that was tough, you might have gone a bit like, into a tough mode. Wake up a bit, stretch out, loosen up. take deep breaths. The sun's just come through to prove that things aren't as tough as you might think. And then other leg. Let's call it leg 2. Should we call it leg 2? Yeah, Phil agrees. So leg 2 comes back. The foot comes wherever it comes, the inner thigh, somewhere along, or perhaps the top of its own thigh, which is more tricky, but possible sometimes. Cupped fingertips on the floor. Really, it's useful to close your eyes if you want to study and to observe any tensions in the body before we do anything else. Any tensions inside the knee, any tensions in the breath, any tensions in the lower back. Notice them and release them. That's the task, if you like. That's the job, is releasing these tensions. And as they release, we occupy the body. So what are the tensions? They're the preoccupation. They're us trying to come into the body where the body is already occupied by patterns and programs and habits in the nerves. By moving into the body, it invites, by upping the ante, it invites what the body's holding to release, because the pressure increases. Imagine a room with people in it already, and then some more people decide to come in the room, or a lift. Some people might then think, do you know what, I'm out of here. It's too many people in here. So the new people coming in a sense, squeeze the other people out. The pressure demands it. So when you investigate a pose, there may be tensions and tightnesses. And their release is you moving into the body and old news moving out. Take the belt if you're using a belt, which I think most of us are sensible to do so, especially at least at first. And it goes around the foot. And then you look at lightness and lift. And again, instead of thinking about getting your head near your leg, forget all that. Forget head near the leg. Focus instead on lightness, buoyancy, lift, release, breath-centered release. I've compared it once to seeing a friend in Thailand trying to paddle his canoe, but he didn't know. I was sort of not with him. I was just a few yards away. But I saw that he hadn't untied his canoe. And he had a few attempts, not many. He was a bright lad. Then he realized, oh, it's tied up. And then he untied it, and one stroke of the oar, and he was off. So similarly, let go of tensions in the body. Let go of tensions in the body. And then the movement into the pose takes care of itself. So you've got to untie the boat. So focus on the releases, and then the pose will just open up. We enter into a timeless experience. Yoga Sutra compares, it says this is called Kalena Navachedat. Unaffected by time. Timeless experience, where there's just the dance of the richness of the now. And that stops us clinging, the dance of the richness of the now. So as on the side one, the breath is the engine of any action. Not thoughts, not ideas, not trying to get somewhere, but just the breath, the engine of any action. Okay, super. Come on up nice and calm, no rush. Well done. Stretch out your legs. Open up your mat. See if you can do it like this. I don't know if I can do it like this. Doesn't really work. It's worth a try. How did that go? Quite well. Went okay, didn't it? Lay down on your back. Hands underneath your head. like you're on holiday. It's a bit sunny in here today. We're fond of that. Definitely a little bit more spring-like, isn't it, the world at the moment? Or at least the, Brighton area. And just observe your lower back relaxing. Your hands are under your head. So in the spring, the grass grows by itself. That's a Zen saying. Zen, of course, is a form of Japanese Buddhism based on Chan, which is a form of Chinese Buddhism, which takes its name from dhyana, which is a Sanskrit name meaning meditation. So the implication is that, there should be, one requires a sense of relaxed confidence for success. And that's not the kind of confidence that somebody puts on. It's not a put-on confidence. It's the understanding that in the spring, the grass grows by itself. So this is the understanding for the back, for example, that it releases itself. Or for the breath, that it breathes itself. Or for meditation, that meditation happens by itself. It's the sort of natural state of the mind. Some traditions focus on this by calling the mind state Dzogchen, that's the Tibetan word. Dzogchen means the great perfection. Everything's like perfect, whole. It's just that we're not looking at things as they are. We're reaching into the particulars, not focusing on the blue sky. Lightly tone your tummy, draw it in, and lift your chest, and lift your bum as well. Still, your hands are behind your head. You can shake, bounce, tilt, sway, whatever helps your back to feel looser and for you to drop some karmic particles. So bouncing, tilting, swaying, swooping, shaking it off in any way that you can. Looking for height, looking for lift. Lowering yourself back down like a blossom floating down in the spring. 3 deep breaths once you're down. Lift your feet up off the floor, lift your head up off the floor, and gaze towards your Nabha chakra. Yeah, you got it, your belly center. Nabha means the navel, chakra means circle or a wheel. So just the energy around the belly. Extend the leg furthest away from me to about 45 degrees. You can play with the height of that in your own investigations. You can play with movements of your foot and then retract that leg and do the same with the other. Again, you can play with the height. And then one more on each side, but this time pulsing the leg. So it moves backwards and forwards. Keep the lower back close to the floor. So there's little extension and retraction. And then you do the same with the other leg, a little pulsing. And then the head comes down, the feet come down. Everyone takes a really deep breath in and out. Big focus on the exhale. And a few more deep breaths, hopefully just come and go and come and go. While you're taking the deep breaths, release your hands from behind your head and roll over onto your side and support your head with your hand. If that's tricky for any reason, you can use blocks. For example, you could have your arm forwards and then blocks under your head like that. Probably not this block, but something softer. Or you can have blocks plus a blanket for your head like that. But perhaps you can find ways to adjust so it's comfortable. Extend your bottom ribs a few times. Extend your armpit a few times. Breathe through your nose if you can. Have a little roll about. So you roll forwards or roll backwards. See if you can find some sensations that are, take you into the field of richness. What we'd like, sensations. So roll forwards, roll backwards. And if you're still able to think about something, find something richer. Roll further forwards, or further backwards. Find something richer. Something that makes you want to release your breath, something that makes you want to screw up your face, something that makes you want to make your mouth into an O shape, you know. It should be like that kind of richness to it. When you're ready and settle back, then bring your top leg up and play with it between the horizontal and vertical planes. And the idea is that we're just loosening. You know, it's a psychophysical looseness. We're just loosening. Don't hold the breath. Look for the looseness coming in your breath. And it's great to just spend time just with this loosening. You know, look for the looseness coming in the breath, in the mind, in the body. Some people like to, in addition, if you want, bring the arm through the inside of the leg. And it's quite good to discipline yourself to try and get the arm to extend as far forwards so you don't have to move your foot. You don't have to twist your foot inwardly. That's useful in terms of being a useful discipline, helping us practicing kshanti, as it's called, which is patience and forbearance. You can also extend your leg if you want, by a little or a lot. It doesn't have to be much. The question is, does what you're doing evoke or invite a deeper breath? If it is, that's what you should be doing. It's the right thing. So investigation is investigation around release. Investigation is investigation around release. The breath, the brain of the body. Okay, bring your leg back down if you brought it up. Knees up. Mother Brown. Come up from the side. Push with your hands. Staying in the same pose, but just swapping the end of your feet are on your mat. And getting yourself comfy, cozy, settled. Extending your bottom ribs several times. So several times. So you extend the spaces between the ribs. So those little muscles between the ribs, the intercostals, get a good stretch. Good, good. Yeah. Breathing easy. When you feel ready, start rolling forwards and backwards. See if you can find a sensation that makes you go ooh, or makes you want to metaphorically hit the canvas with your hand. It's a metaphor based on watching wrestling back in the 80s. But it's the last time I watched wrestling was in the 80s. Just be on Saturday. And it was an altogether different business. It was entirely, in fact, silly. Moving backwards, moving forward, looking for sensations that are rich. And looking for sensations that make you want to hit the canvas, metaphorically, with your hand. Which means I surrender, I give, I yield. And what is being yielded is our attachment to thoughts and emotions. And what's being yielded to is the moment. Yielding to the moment. I yield. That's what we're looking for. I yield. The joy of yielding. Now, yielding is so great. I could do it all morning. Obviously, I'd need a break for a cup of tea, but I could most of the morning. So you can carry on with that yielding practice. But if you want and if you're ready to come to the raising the leg position, then go ahead with that. And of course, it moves between. That's it. You got it. The horizontal and the vertical. The idea is that it loosens you. When we're looser, energy flows. We have more energy. People that are tight get tired a lot. And you know, we are tight, aren't we? Sometimes it's not like people. We are people and we experience all sorts of things. When we're tight, this is when we've got a lot of karmic particles. We feel heavy, you know. So the solution is loosening up. So loosening up the body in a variety of ways. And really trying to, you know, get into that looseness as a sort of whole package. It's not just happening to the body. It's happening to your mind. Try and get into it like a whole of you is so much looser. And you could keep practicing this loosening off modality, I think, for ages. I love it. But when you're ready, if you're ready, again, discipline yourself to try and loosen further around the top of the thigh so that the thigh can move through. As this tissue at the top softens by being massaged, the leg can come closer, thereby making it easier for you to extend your arm. Obviously, shorter legs and longer arms also makes it easier. So if you've got, you know, very short arms and very long legs, then that's even more difficult. You have my understanding. You can begin to extend the leg if you want, by degrees, by a lot or by a little. It's breath-centered and it's investigative. The eyes are soft, the jaw is soft. And really focused on flow everywhere. Like everywhere. So it becomes a surrendered experience. Surrendered experience. That's great. Bring your leg back down when you're ready. Draw your knees up and push with your hands to bring yourself up to a seated position. My recommendation is to sit on a cork block for Siddhasana. But if that's not comfortable, you can find any seated position like this. And we're going to do a little bit of Tsa Lung Trul Kur, which is a bunch of Tibetan words that I quite like in my mouth. They're quite nice sounds. Tsa Lung, I quite like to say. It's nice in the mouth. You should try it sometime. Tsa Lung Trul Kur. And Tsa Lung means energy channels. Tsa. Lung is the energy itself. Trulkor means magical mandala. So it's like a cycle of practices that you do. So take a deep breath or two or three or four. Just sit up as tall as you can. You can use blankets to support you if you feel tight in the body. And we're just going to do the practice for the Vyana Vayu, the all-over energy, which I think some of you have definitely done before. And what's essential is that you're able to sit up tall. So if you can't sit up tall, then please adjust your seat, maybe sit on more blocks, or maybe use a blanket, or maybe sit in a different position. You've got to be able to sit up tall for this. Now, the practice will involve breathing in and then what's called rebreathing, which is where you breathe part of the inhale, a bit more of the same inhale, a bit more of the same inhale into the pelvic floor region. So it's, some of you might know the Viloma breath. It's like that. Breathing in, breathing in, breathing in. Then you hold the breath with the idea that you're holding it at the pelvic floor. And whilst you hold your breath, you take the following actions. So here's an exciting demonstration. It's not exciting, is it? And then you breathe out and you imagine you're breathing out through the pores of your body. Now I did 5 on each side, and that might be too much. You might feel like you're going to pop. So you can do 3, like with these bows and arrows. And when you're doing this, imagine you're making energy, like you're summoning energy up into your hands. And I imagine it like sparkles. I don't think it's traditional, but and then you get that energy into your hands, and that's what you bathe in. You bathe in your body in energy, or in my case, sparkles. Feel free to bathe in sparkles too if you like. So bathing in sparkles, and then the bows and arrows, you can do 3 or 5, up to you, holding the breath the whole time after breathing and then rebreathing. Okay, let's do it together. As you breathe out, you sit in what Tibetans call Rigpa, a centered point between polarities. And we're going to do the practice 2 more times. So let's do the second one now. Breathing and rebreathing. Again, sitting in Rigpa. That's a Tibetan word. The Sanskrit version of that is vidya. So the implication is seeing. Vidya implies seeing things as they are, which is only possible when you're not caught up in particulars. It's particulars that divide us. We get caught up in our thing and we can't comprehend someone else's thing. What they're worried about. It's like, what? Why are you worried about that? I'm involved in this. Last one, 3 or more little parts of the breath, and then energy bath. We're going to end with mantra uchara, which is where you send a mantra up through the central channel. The mantra will be Om, divided into Aum, so it's like Aum. And it's really important to imagine that you feel it starting low, pushing up all the way and through the point between the eyebrows and right up through the crown of the head. So try and feel it viscerally from low to high as we chant Aum. Let's take a deep breath in. Deep breath to relax. Seeing as the sun's out, let's just do one more of those. Special treat. When you're ready, deep breath in, start down at the pelvic floor. Let's come to laying on our backs. Make sure you're really comfortable. Head support can be taken. Palms should face up. Shoulder blades should be scooted under. So we're just laying flat on our backs now. If you want a blanket over the top of you, that's nice, can be nice. Laying flat down, palms up, hands away from the yoga mat. Head support if your head tips back. Surrendering the full weight of the whole back of the body. Take a couple of really deep breaths and let the lower back completely release into the breath. Feel into the body with a little movement of your toes and fingers, and perhaps some little stretches of the arms or legs, maybe even rubbing the eyes or running a hand through the hair. And when you feel ready, bend the legs, placing the soles of the feet onto the floor. Rolling onto your side, facing away from the front of the room. Before rolling back towards the front of the room in your own time. Coming up nice and easy from the side, using your arms to assist your ascent and bringing the hands to a prayer position. May any benefit that we've gained in our acting in this way go to the alleviation of the suffering of all, absolutely all beings. Oh. Thanks so much for coming, roomers, and very much for coming also Zoomers. I've got a yoga day coming up on the next weekend, 17th of March. Hope some of you can come to that. But in the meantime, stay out of trouble. Thank you. Thanks so much for coming. Lovely to see you. Thank you. Ciao.